foreign correspondents na nakatutok dito sa atin pong virtual presser. Ngayong umaga makakasama po natin si Cabinet Secretary Karlo Nograles para magbigay ho ng report kaugnay ng mga direktiba ni Pangulong Duterte mula po sa cabinet meeting kagabi. Cabsec?
Maraming salamat, Asek JB. Mga kababayan, mga kaibigan natin mula sa Malacanang Press Corps at miyembro ng media, mga opisyal at kawani ng PCOO na kasama natin ngayon, may buntag, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Yesterday afternoon, President Rodrigo Duterte convened the cabinet in order to discuss several concerns that involve the welfare of our countrymen: food accessibility and affordability, public health, and national security. The salient details of these discussions and the actions taken on these concerns will be shared this morning. Makikita po natin na dahil sa pandemya, nangangailangan po na mag-adjust at umaksyon agad ang administrasyon. Just as our kababayans have had to adapt to the pandemic, so has the government taken steps to help our countrymen cope with the challenges it presents. Isa po sa mga hakbang na ito ay ang direktiba ng Department of Energy na huwag putulan ng kuryente ang tinatawag na lifeliners o mga low-income consumers na kumukonsumo ng threshold level set by ERC tulad na lamang ng isang distribution utility na kung saan nakaset na 100 kilowatt hours and below. According to the Department of Energy, while lifeliners comprise 32% of the customer base, they only account for 3% of electricity sales. So this is very doable. In the cabinet meeting yesterday, the Department of Energy recommended to the President that this no disconnection policy for lifeliners be continued. Ipagpatuloy po. And the President readily agreed, given that electricity is a basic necessity our countrymen cannot live without. Kaya po makakahinga na po ng malalim ang ating mga kababayan na mababa o walang kita. Hindi po kayo mapuputulan ng kuryente. Hindi po kayo pababayaan ni Pangulong Duterte. Aside from approving this recommendation, the President also approved the following DOE recommendations: support the PCOO DOE intensified campaign for EENC or electricity efficiency and conservation, enabling all consumers, including the lifeliners, through new technologies. For ERC, to fast-track its support for DOE's implementation of the number 1, Energy Efficiency Law. Number 2, Retail Competition and Open Access. Number 3, the Clean Energy Choice. And number 4, the Green Energy Auction Program. To support the energy families' quick restoration services, especially during calamities. And to continue lifeline discounts in the electricity bills, which range from 100% to 20% depending on the benchmarks set by ERC. And to direct the DBM to release the reimbursement due to the electric cooperatives through the National Electrification Administration for the quick restoration of activities to address previous calamities. Also to direct the DBCC to implement the Murang Kuryente Act, which is the universal charge for stranded contract costs and stranded debts to be paid and covered by the Malampaya Fund. In the long term, the President also approved the DOE recommendation, number 1, to explore the capability of consumers to pay and to enhance the competitiveness of the supply sector. Number 2, to urge Congress to pass the extension of the benefits enjoyed by the lifeliners from 2021 to 2051. Minsan na po itong naamyendahan ng ating Kongreso. In-extend po yung benefits para sa lifeliners mula 2011 to 2021. Ngayon po, ang hinihingi ng ating Pangulo sa Kongreso ay muli i-extend po yung lifeliners benefits from 2021 to 2051. Meron po mga pending legislations ngayon na nasa House of Representatives at sa Senado. At alam naman po natin na itong benefits na to ay mag-expire in mid of 2021. Kaya kami po ay nakikiusap sa Kongreso na pabilisin na po ang pagpasa ng panukalang batas na ma-extend po ito from 2021 to 2051. And number 3, to maximize foreign assistance such as the Green Energy Fund and the Energy Transition Fund for Consumer Protection, the use of new technologies, and the development of indigenous and clean energy sources. Isa din na tinalakay kahapon sa cabinet meeting ay ang supply ng baboy sa merkado. Department of Agriculture Secretary William Dar apprised the President on the status of the country's pork supplies and prices, and also submitted recommendations to address issues and concerns pertaining to pork. Nireport po ni Secretary Dar na nagsimula ang pagtaas ng presyo ng kasim, pige, liempo noong Oktubre. According to the DA, as of February 1, the national average farm gate prices of hogs is now at 171 pesos per kilo. It ranges from as low as 132 pesos per kilo in one region to 244 pesos per kilo in another region. Now, as for the projections of pork 1,210 metric tons, the DA has recommended studying that the MAV be expanded just enough to cover the projected shortfall for the year. This recommendation, as well as the recommendation to create a sub-task group on economic intelligence to go after smugglers, profiteers, and hoarders of agricultural products, was approved by the President. This said group will be led by the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Trade and Industry and will count on the following as members: the Department of Justice, the Department of Interior and Local Government, the National Bureau of Investigation, the Philippine National Police, the Bureau of Customs, the Philippine Competition Commission, the National Security Council, and the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency. Kung meron mga grupo o negosyante na pinagsasamantalahan ang pandemya para pagkakitaan ang taong bayan, hindi po ito palalampasin. With regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, the government continues to take steps to adapt and appropriately respond to this evolving outbreak. With different strains and variants of the COVID-19 virus now emerging, the Department of Health will be mobilizing resources and investing in genomic biosurveillance, which will strengthen and improve our overall COVID-19 response as the conduct of whole genome sequencing and bioinformatics analysis of the virus will enable us to understand the evolution of the virus across geographical and time scales, as well as the impact of specific mutations on viral properties, including infectiousness and virulence. As Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, we must know our enemy. Genomic biosurveillance, according to the Department of Health, is critical input for our national vaccine deployment program, as a better understanding of the virus and its possible mutations will enable us to, number 1, implement a more responsive vaccination program, and number 2, to execute other existing health interventions, and number 3, to prepare for future pandemics. A total of 362 million pesos will be allocated for this initiative. On a final note, I would also like to report that the President has approved the acquisition of 15 Black Hawk helicopters as part of plans to slowly address the growing heli-lift deficiency of our armed forces, and number 2, decommission all Huey helicopters. Maalala niyo po na 7 sa ating mga mahal na sundalo ay pumanaw nung may nag-crash landing na isang UE helicopter sa Bukidnon noong January 16. This was the 4th such crash since July of last year. And the President wants to end all these tragic deaths. Our servicemen and their families deserve better. Itong mga UE na gamit ng PAF, mas matanda pa sa akin. In fact, the first UE took flight 64 years ago. So kung tao ito, talagang due na po for retirement. Kailangan na rin natin talaga. We have a heli lift capability need of 55 helicopters to cover over 7,000 islands with a total land area of 300,000 square kilometers. The Department of National Defense in fact says that we actually require a total of 76 helicopters. And while the President initially agreed to acquiring 55 new helicopters, that number has been managed and in fact reduced to 15 owing to the challenges that we currently face. Before I entertain questions, the President and the Cabinet extends our thanks to the Manila Concert Choir for the beautiful prayer that opened the Cabinet meeting yesterday. Sa Manila Concert Choir na nag-present virtually kahapon, maraming salamat po. Sa gitna ng ating mga pinagdadaanan bilang isang bansa, maliban sa panalangin, kailangan natin magtulungan. Thank you. Let's now proceed to the open forum for any questions or clarifications.
Thank you, Cabsec. Okay, sa lahat po ng mga magtatanong sa atin pong Q&A, pwede po kayong magpadala ng inyong katanungan sa Q&A chat box or sa Viber. O pwede rin po kayong magtanong ng live via Zoom. Sumali lang po sa atin pong Zoom meeting room. Ang unang magtatanong, Cabsec, si Pia Ranyada Robles ng Rappler. Pia?
Hello. Hi, Cabsec.
Hi, Pia.
Yes, sir. Sir, just on another note, I was just wanting to ask about the President's position on the military and uniformed personnel pension problem because, sir, sa mga congressional hearings, they pointed out the problem that 800 billion pesos a year for the next 20 years would be necessary to pay off the growing costs of the military pension. So, sir, just want to know if the Cabinet discussed at any point, not even just particularly this meeting, but other meetings, how they would solve this problem. What is the President's stance on how to solve this problem?
Well, hindi siya naging part ng agenda kagabi sa aming cabinet meeting, pero meron pong cluster na in charge po dyan. So meron binuo na cluster to take charge and to discuss the issues and concerns regarding the military pension adjustments at ito na nga po ay nasa Kongreso at pinag-uusapan doon. So may naka-assign po diyan.
Sir, yung group na yun, did they ever talk about specific ways to address this? Kasi may mga proposals like scrapping indexation or making the age of retirement of military personnel to 60 and imposing mandatory contributions. Which among these proposals is the Cabinet group considering?
Siguro it would be much better to direct the questions to that cluster. No, I'm not at liberty to discuss also kung ano yung mga napag-usapan na doon. I do know that obviously Congress hearings are open to the public. So kung meron man mga position papers na pinadala mula sa cluster na yan ay napadala na po sa Kongreso. Alam ko even in the previous Congress ito po ay napag-usapan na rin po. So I think there are also some position papers that were submitted as far as the executive branch is concerned. No? But ultimately, syempre, the legislators, as legislators, will be the as lawmakers will be the one to finally craft that bill. No? But be that as it may, meron pong naka-assign na grupo that is consistently and constantly liaising or discussing these issues and concerns with Congress. Kasi syempre budgetary requirements, money and budget ang pinag-uusapan dyan. And necessarily because Congress has the power of the purse, kailangan po ang pag-usapan dyan ang bottom line. Kung magkano yung budget, magkano yung kinakailangan, magkano kakailanganin para sa mga adjustments na ito.
And sir, lastly lang dun sa Black Hawk helicopters, you mentioned that the President gave the green light for 15 new Black Hawk helicopters, but the need is actually over 70. So may we know, sir, where the 15 number came from? Bakit 15 lang? And what will the cabinet or the military then intend to do with the shortfall, given that you actually need 70 or 55 helicopters in total? What do you aim to do to fill that gap, given that only 15 have been given the green light for acquisition?
Well, syempre, if we had all the money in the world, no, if we had that budget, so syempre we would go for it kasi yun ang kinakailangan, no, ng ating national defense. But because we are faced with the reality nga na may kinakaharap tayong pandemya, and of course the term of the president is only up to 2022, and we have only one remaining budget to be discussed, no, which is the budget for 2022. Given these realities and limitations, syempre we had to temper kung ano yung makakayanan lang po natin. And the realistic number that was discussed was possibly 15. Pero alam niyo po, this number is an indicative number lang po. And it also has a lot to do with the negotiations, syempre na pag-usapan. It's not like as if para hindi parang bumibili tayo ng kotse na nandun lang sa showroom, di ba? Orders have to be made, negotiations have to be made, and the supply agreement has to be made. So all of these things have to be laid out. Kailangan plansyahin ang lahat ng iyan. Pero at the very least, may directive po si Pangulo na we cannot afford 55. Although ang sinasabi nga ng DND is higher than that. But we cannot afford 55. So we are settling with 15. And then hopefully yung next administration, kung sino yung susunod na administrasyon, depende na po sa Pangulo, sa bagong Pangulo, kung ano yung magiging direction niya. But at the very least, we hope to leave the administration and turn it over to the new administration with at least a lesser deficit as far as heli lift capability is concerned.
So target for these 15 is to arrive within the year, or at least within the term of the president, all 15?
Yeah, well, ang ideally, no, if all things go well, meaning to say may support for budget from Congress, maganda yung negotiations natin, then at the very least, no, the order will be placed and the budget will be secured for the 15. Again, it's a directive, marami pang kailangan gawin, at marami pang kailangan pag-usapan, including the budget necessary for 2022. But at least magsisimula na yung negotiations, and hopefully, if that order is placed and finalized by 2022, then hopefully yung delivery will come forthwith. If ever, we don't know if it will come before the President physically steps down, no, by June 30, or baka mamanahin ng bagong Pangulo. Again, it's a lot of things that need to still be discussed and ironed out.
All right. Thank you, Cabsec.
Salamat.
Thank you, Pia Ranyada of Rappler. Mula po kay Joseph Morong of GMA7. Doon po sa front, sa lifeliners. Elaboration lang po, Cabsec. May mga lifeliners ba na nabigyan na ng mga notice of disconnection? If there are, paano ang sistema, and sino again ang lifeliners?
Ang lifeliners po, nakaset sa batas po, ang lifeliners ay halimbawa, no, sineset kasi ng ERC yan, pero halimbawa, sa isang distribution utility, ang naset na ERC na lifeliners ay yung kumukonsumo ng 100 kilowatt hours and below. So, depende po kung gaano kalaki. Tapos from the 100 kilowatt hour and below, halimbawa lang po, nakakategory po yan. And sa bawat category, meron pong diskwento na nakukuha yung lifeliner. No? Again, all of these rules are set by the ERC depending on the distribution utility. So that's just an example, no? Para meron lang tayong reference point. At kumbaga, ang instructions ni Pangulo sa panahon ngayon na meron tayong kinakaharap na pandemya ay walang puputulan na lifeliner. Kasi nga, hirap na nga ng buhay at lifeliner nga sila. And number two, based on the computations ng Department of Energy, ay kayang-kaya naman. It's doable. And number three, and more importantly, Sa 2021 this year, mid of this year kasi, mag-expire na yung RA 10150. So based on RA 10150, in-extend po yung lifeline rate based on Section 73 of the EPIRA law, in-extend po yung lifeline rate for 10 years from 2011 to 2021. So mag-expire na po yan sa June, or not June, but mid of this year. So kailangan ng congressional action. So there are pending bills now in the House of Representatives and the Senate. But the bills that we're seeing is another 10 years. So meaning to say 2021 to 2031. Ang inaprubuhan po na direktiba ni Pangulo ay ang pakiusap sa Kongreso na i-extend po yan ng 30 years, not 10 years. So ang pakiusap po is from 2021 all the way up to 2051. So another 30 years because of this pandemic and because of the computations sa DOE, hindi naman po ito mabigat para sa ating mga distribution utilities. Kayang-kaya naman po.
Sir, follow-up question from Joseph Morong. I'm not sure kung na-catch. Okay, sabi niya, what does the DA think of the threat of a pork holiday?
Siguro let's refer that to Secretary Dar, no? Pero yung ganyang klaseng bagay kasi well, you have to weigh it, no? Is it beneficial? Is it not beneficial to the public, to consumers? Ano bang magiging epekto niyan sa merkado, sa market, to the many players comprising this whole ecosystem. Kumbaga, meron po tayong mga dapat tulungan ng mga magsasaka, meron tayong dapat tulungan ng mga hog raisers, yung mga small producers natin. So, it's a whole ecosystem na anything that you do within that whole ecosystem affects. So, that is my take, but of course, we can also ask Secretary William Dar to elaborate even further on the effect that might have, no, in that whole ecosystem.
Additional regarding pa rin po, sir, sa pork, no? Ano yung projected demand for pork po?
Siguro, ganito, no? We saw the numbers, but ayoko kasi pangunahan itong magiging proseso, no? Because the process really is pag-uusapan pa yan ng MAV Advisory Council, pag-uusapan pa yan ng MAV Management Council. So, kumbaga, the decision that was made yesterday was the process to begin. Tingnan yung ano yung current supply, tingnan yung projections, tingnan mo yung ilan ang kinakailangan natin, at yun ang magiging basis for the discussions ng MAV Advisory Council at MAV Management Council. And remember, at the end of the day, we also go to Congress and ask for their help in this regard din po. So, yun po yung proseso, but I think we need to act fast, no, because of the supply requirements that we need for this year, 2021. Yung ASF, which is basically parang ang usapan nga namin doon kagabi was parang ito yung COVID ng baboy, no? ASF is like the COVID of hogs. May kinakaharap tayong COVID, yung sa hogs din, sa hog industry may hinaharap din sila ibang virus, no, ibang sakit. So nagkaroon talaga tayo ng challenges pagdating sa supply. So yung price ceiling, itong pag-uusap sa MAV, lahat po yan kasama yan sa binubuo na action plan talaga ng Department of Agriculture. But I also have to emphasize that of course government is there to help our local hog suppliers and producers, especially the small ones. So ang priority talaga ng Department of Agriculture really is to help our hog raisers, to help our local producers. Yun po yung number one. Itong gagawin natin, if ever, would be only a temporary solution, no? Temporary way for us to ensure na hindi sisipa yung presyo, hindi magkakaroon ng effect sa ating inflation, sa food prices, at lahat ng mga iba pa mga economic repercussions na maaaring mangyari, no, pag hindi natin nabantayan ito. So it's one way to address this concern, pero marami pa po na nakalinya na mga hakbang ang ginagawa ng Department of Agriculture in this regard. Maaaring mangyari, no, pag hindi natin nabantayan ito. So it's one way to address this concern, pero marami pa po na nakalinya na mga hakbang ang ginagawa ng Department of Agriculture in this regard.
Next question will come from Lip Wang of Guangming Daily, China. Good morning, Lip.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Executive. Good morning, Secretary Nograles. My question is, with the new energy program, how do you expect the oil and the gas joint exploration with China will push through? And do you think it will accelerate it? Thank you.
This was something that was not discussed in the cabinet. So I would have to refer your question to the Department of Energy, because the Department of Energy is taking charge in that regard, and it is something that they're looking at and considering. No, these are some of the concerns that DOE is looking at in order for us to be able to help our economy and to help our country and become, energy resilient as well.
Lip, follow-up question?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay. Next question from Maricel Halili of TV5. As far as IATF is concerned, is it mandatory for airports, LGUs, and private companies to accept saliva test of Red Cross just like the RT-PCR test?
Okay, so this was discussed a bit, no, in the cabinet meeting, yung tungkol sa saliva test. So I think sa IATF meeting namin na mamaya ay magkakaroon pa ng more extensive discussion. The President merely asked, kinukumusta niya yung sa saliva test at kinukumusta nga niya yung accuracy naman nito. So I think the proper way to do this would be to await whatever comes out of our meeting sa IATF mamaya. And then i-announce lang po namin with regard dun sa saliva testing.
Next question will come from Big J Lagang of PTV. Big J? Good morning. Okay, so habang wala pa si Big J, si Jen Gal... Big Jen, ba? Big J?
Hello, good morning po.
Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me clearly, sir?
Yes po, malinaw po.
Yes, may buntag, Kabsec.
Ay buntag sa
You've LTO already mentioned that there is a need to clarify the IATF guidelines with regards to wearing of face mask inside private and public vehicles, and I believe, sir, you've already issued a statement na pwede namang hindi mag-face mask yung mga driver kung sila lang yung isa sa loob ng sasakyan. Is there a clarification already, sir, from the IATF kung allowed ba talagang hindi na mag-face mask yung mga magkakasama sa loob ng sasakyan na nakatira lang naman sa isang bahay, Kabsec?
Yes, tama po yan, no? Because kung titingnan mo talaga yung documents or yung mga issuances, no, based on the LTO memorandum, makikita nyo talaga dyan nakalagay is all drivers and passengers aboard or inside private and government vehicles must wear a face mask at all times. So dito po nagkaroon ng mga questions about paano kung mag-isa ka. So based doon sa pronouncement ng DOTR at ng DOH at naging yung tanggapan ko po ay clarify po natin na pag mag-isa ka lang sa kotse, wala ka namang kasama, private car, ikaw nagmamaneho, wala naman mahahawa, so hindi naman kailangan na nakasuot ka ng face mask. So ngayon the next question is paano kung same household, parehong bahay, So ito yung pag-uusapan namin sa IATF, no? Because of course there's a question about how do you enforce that? Baka kung magkasitahan, sasabihin na lang magpapalusot na hindi, kasama ko lahat ng mga to sa bahay, di ba? So it's really a question of enforcement and doability. So yes, pag-uusapan namin sa IATF at abangan na lang po natin siguro kung ano yung magiging issuance ng IATF tungkol po diyan.
Okay. Kabsec, one thing, pag-uusapan din kaya kung ang possibility na tanggalin na yung barrier sa pagmumotor siklo po?
Yun po, kung maalala po natin, that was something that was issued, no, ng joint efforts yan ng iba't ibang mga ahensya, DILG, DOTR at iba pa. So wala pa naman na prompt na ito'y ibalik sa IATF para pag-usapan muli. So I don't know if it's part of the agenda. I've not seen it as an item in the agenda. So siguro not at this IATF meeting.
Alright, dagang salamat, Kabsec.
Salamat sa
Salamat, Big J Lagang of PTV. From Tina Mendez of Philippine Star, the Senate Committee on Public Services is set to conduct an inquiry into the operations of private motor vehicle inspection centers or PMVICS. Will Malacanang look into the issues and ask LTO to suspend the implementation of the motor vehicle inspection pending review? Baka napag-usapan daw po sa cabinet meeting.
Hindi na pag-usapan sa cabinet meeting, hindi naman po na bring up. So let's see kung meron man maging issuance or directive regarding that, but as far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the cabinet meeting yesterday is concerned, hindi po na pag-usapan.
Next question will come from Jen Galvez of Vanguard Radio Network. Jen, good morning.
Good morning, Kabsec. Sir, dun sa regarding sa pag-purchase ng Black Hawk dun sa budget and also dun sa concern on decommissioning the UE helicopters, nabanggit din ba, sir, sa meeting ninyo if the government will purchase, make an additional purchase of patrol, yung patrol boats for our Coast Guard, because given the almost 37,000 kilometer range of the coast, our coastal area, I think we need. It's a given that we need to intensify our security and patrol services, Kabsec.
Actually, specifically hindi na pag-usapan, but alam naman po natin na it's budget call season right now. So all agencies and departments of government are now preparing their budget, doing the budget preparation, preparing their budgetary needs for 2022, which will be submitted to DBM, to the DBCC, pag-uusapan doon, and the whole process, no, before submitting the National Expenditure Program to Congress. So hindi lang po Coast Guard, but all the other departments and agencies will be already preparing yung budgetary needs nila. And as far as I know, every year naman po may mga nire-request na augmentation or additional assets ang Coast Guard at ang iba pang mga nasa national defense or even the other agencies of government. So I'm sure that it will form part of the requests that all the other agencies as well will be giving to DBM and DBCC for their consideration.
Thank you. Sir, one last question. We have pardon me for saying this, but we somehow have a topsy-turvy implementation or interpretation of the law given yung sa fiasco ng LTO. Paano, sir, ito pag na-discuss ho ba ninyo or mapag-uusapan ba ninyo further later yung regarding sa implementation ng vaccine rollout natin to avoid corruption issues and to ensure the speedy implementation?
Pagdating naman sa vaccine rollout, it's like a constant topic agenda naman in all our IATF meetings, no? So every IATF meeting po natin, kasama naman po talaga sa agenda is of course yung situational report, kumbaga, on the ground on the COVID cases, tapos saan nakikita yung updates ng COVID, no, per region, per area, and then kasama rin po yung updates on the vaccination rollout. So it's like a staple agenda in our agenda sa IATF. We always talk about it and kung ano yung mga kinakailangan na support mula sa IATF and other government agencies and departments. Dun tinetrash out at pinapakiusapan sa IATF meeting. Kasi whole of government yun eh. Lahat ng major departments and agencies are present.
Sir, one last, this is not a question but a request from the tourism sector. If there could be a more clarified statement from the IATF, if you require daw, sir, pa yung pag-present ng mga turista na darating, kasi I believe that they have to have an appointment for their test, sir, bago sila ma-quarantine and for their quarantine and then bago ma-test. Kung pwede daw sana, sir, ma-clarify pa further if they need to present that they have a scheduled appointment before they can be quarantined, before they can come in the country. Sir.
Is the question about domestic tourists? We're not talking about international tourists, right?
Yes, sir.
So domestic tourists. Yes. Okay. So the rule is pagdating sa travel to LGUs, the rule really is kailangan po ninyo makipag-ugnayan or makipag-usap with the LGU of destination. So each and every LGU ay meron po silang sarili nilang mga protocols and requirements and procedures, no? So ang nangyayari po, ang rule ngayon ay kailangan ninyong malaman muna doon sa LGU of destination kung ano yung mga requirements nila, tapos tuparin ninyo at comply with those requirements. So now there is, because of the different LGUs having, and then ang IATF, through the regional IATF, will make sure na it's not, walang overbreadth or hindi sobra-sobra yung mga requirements, no, sa mga minimum standards na kinakailangan at hinahanap ng IATF. Yun lang po yung basic rule. But now there is some proposals and recommendations na bakit hindi na lang nating across the board, no, gawin yung mga requirements na standard per LGU. So this is something na pag-uusapan pa namin sa IATF together with the Department of Tourism, Department of Transportation, and Department of Interior and Local Government, and all the other departments involved here, no? Because syempre, if we want the question is, okay, tayo ba magsiset ng standards or do we still continue with that rule na LGU will set their own standards? So it has to be a healthy discussion at kailangan meron po tayong tinatawag na pakikipag-ugnayan with the LGUs so that we can have some common ground.
Thank you, Jen Galvez of Vanguard Radio Network. From Tina Mendez of Philippine Star on vaccine rollout, where do you think is the distrust for Chinese-developed vaccines coming from? How did you at the IATF view the low public confidence on the anti-COVID-19 vaccines? How is the government addressing these issues?
I think it's really lack of information, and lack of information really comes in certain biases. So really the way to combat it is just to really propagate and continue driving yung information campaign na kinakailangan natin. And it has to be a campaign that not only government is involved in, but we'd also like to ask the help and support of different stakeholders. Kasama na po dyan yung mga kaibigan natin sa media and even those in the private sector. Importante po kasi that there has to be confidence in vaccines that are approved in this country regardless of brand. Kasi kailangan yung mensahe po is basta approved ng FDA po natin, no, regardless of the brand, dumaan po sa masinsinan at mahigpit na proseso yan para ma-approve ng FDA. So kung kahit anong brand po yan, kung aprobado ng FDA, ligtas po yan, effective po yan. At yan po ay gagawin natin at tayo sa pamahalaan ay hindi naman po tayo papayag na magro-roll out tayo ng vaccine na hindi natin nasisiguro yung safety, efficacy, ang kaligtasan ng lahat ng kapwa nating Pilipino. Of course, there is that hesitancy that comes with vaccines per se, which we accept, no? And which we are trying to address. Pero ako, personally, ang palagay ko naman po dyan, pag nag-umpisa na po ang rollout, no? At ang unahin naman po natin yung mga medical and health frontliners whom presumably naintindihan nila, no? Ang importance ng vaccine, ang importance ng bakunang yan. So, ibig sabihin, pag nag-roll out na po tayo by mid-February at mapakita po natin sa publiko na okay naman, safe naman, effective, ligtas naman po, habang nagro-roll out po tayo from February to March to April, at unahin natin siyempre medical and health frontliners natin, tataas at tataas po ang kumpiyansa. Of course, Pfizer ang mauna with 117,000 doses coming in through the WHO COVAX facility. Then AstraZeneca will follow suit. Then we have the Sinovac applying for the FDA. Pag lumusot sa FDA yan, then hopefully we'll be able to see a rollout even of the Sinovac vaccine, and so on and so forth. No? So siguro kailangan lang natin diinin na basta pumasa ng FDA natin, ibig sabihin dumaan sa masinsinang proseso ng Vaccine Expert Panel, ng FDA, ng HTAC, ng NITAG, tapos meron pa tayong National Adverse Effect Following Immunization Committee na magmamonitor ng lahat ng yan, plus the LGUs. So everyone nakatutok dyan. Kaya once we start rolling out, tataas po yung vaccine confidence.
Thank you, Tina. Next question from Samuel Medanilla of Business Mirror. Ang tanong po niya, may proposed volume na po kaya ang DA for MAV at ano po ang timeline ng government for adjusting the new MAV rate? May target date po kaya kung kailangan mai-implement ito o kung kailan ma-implement ito?
Well, ayokong pangunahan, no? Because again, it passes through a council and that council will make the decisions and the recommendations to the President. So meron mga indicative numbers but I think hindi pa naman yan final, so I'm not at liberty to state the numbers. But again, dadaan sa proseso yan. It will then reach the President for his ultimate recommendation for the President to make the decision, and then we'll ask Congress for help also in that regard. So, dadaan ang proseso yan. But again, obviously, it's something that we need to act on this year because it's the supply of this year na pinag-uusapan natin. And again, it's only a temporary measure. It's just a temporary measure for us to address the current supply deficit. No? So, i-emphasize lang natin yan. Plus, I also want to underscore the fact that this is just one of the temporary measures, but really, ang focus natin is to help our small producers, our farmers, our hog raisers, ang ating mga Filipino hog raisers. Yan po ang ultimate number one na priority natin. This temporary measure is just meant to augment the supply para hindi po pumalo ang presyo, hindi matamaan ang ating inflation. We keep our prices stable and low para habang nandito yan at habang may yung ASF at habang may kinakaharap tayong pandemya, at least assured ang ating buying public, lalong-lalo na ang ating mga mahirap na kababayan na abot kaya pa rin ang presyo ng pork sa bansa.
Thank you, Sam. Mula naman po kay Mela Lesmoras of PTV, with the arrival of vaccines very soon, napag-usapan po ba sa cabinet meeting kung pangungunahan ng gabinete ang pagpapabakuna, sir? Kasama po ba sila sa priority list to boost public confidence?
Alam nyo, hindi po kami kasama sa priority list kasi yan po ay talagang, ang number one priority po talaga are our medical and health frontliners. And there is a group that determines the priority list, no? A group of medical experts, vaccine experts, scientists, epidemiologists. There's that one group that determines the queuing, the prioritization. Ayaw po namin na maakusahan na kami po ay jumping the line or naniningit po sa pila. Yun po yung iniiwasan natin. Pero kapag sinabi po na, sirs, madam, kailangan ninyo mauna para makatulong sa vaccine confidence, kami naman po ay willing. Personally, I am willing. May nagsabi sa akin, willing ka ba kahit Sinovac? Opo, willing ako. Kahit anong brand, para lang maipakita sa ating mga kababayan, basta dumaan ng FDA yan, sigurado po ako, ligtas yan. Kaya again, we will await whatever recommendations will be given to us by those comprising that expert panel. At pag sinabi nila na, sir, kailangan ninyo mag-sample, okay po, walang problema yan.
Sir, from ABS-CBN, Pia Gutierrez of ABS-CBN, question po niya, update on the planned meeting of the IATF with COMELEC on face-to-face campaigning. Is the IATF likely to prohibit candidates to conduct face-to-face campaigns for the 2022 national elections?
Alam nyo, ang ano dito, ang setup kasi, ang legal setup nito is COMELEC is an independent commission. It's a constitutional body that has its own independence. If ever COMELEC might want to seek advice from IATF, pero mahirap pong, alam mo yun, mahirap na pangunahan namin or kami ang mag-offer. Because, again, it's an independent constitutional body. And because they have to maintain their independence, then we will not seek them out. They might ask for our advice, if ever. I don't know if there has been any letter, document, or anything requesting for IATF help or advice, no? Or anyone from the IATF for that matter. So, hindi po kami pwedeng mangialam dyan kasi COMELEC yan. But again, whatever advice or help that COMELEC needs, I'm sure anyone from the IATF or the departments comprising the IATF is willing naman to give our advice if sought by the COMELEC.
Sir, from Michael Flores of Agence France Press, is the 15 Black Hawks announced today on top of existing orders from Poland? Will government still procure it from Poland, or are you eyeing other manufacturers?
I cannot speak on the details regarding the acquisition. Alam po natin that there have already been Black Hawks that were acquired, no? And in fact, 6 have already been delivered. And we are awaiting for the perfection of that contract kasi meron pang darating na additional, no? And those were procured in previous budgets, no? So that was part of the report. And now, because of that successful procurement, there's a need to procure another set, no? And so negotiations will begin again. So the details of the negotiations and the procurement activities on that regard is something that I cannot divulge or speak about, no? So basta ang bottom line lang po is that we need the heli lifts, we need these air assets, and there was a need, a number was given, and the president said that we might not be able to afford it because of that pandemic, but you can begin negotiations for 15. But again, that's still just something of an indicative number. There's still many things that have to be done as far as negotiations is concerned, as far as securing the budget is concerned. Lahat po naman yan dadaan pa sa Kongreso especially the budgetary requirement for that. So it's just something na sinabi ni Pangulo, yung indicative number na papayag siya na gano'n na lamang, pero hindi pwede yung malaking number dahil nga marami pang pangangailangan, lalo na sa laban against COVID-19.
Sir, follow-up from Michael Flores on the Black Hawks. How will this be financed?
Yun na nga, it's something that has to be threshed out and discussed pa kung saan natin hanapin ang pondo para dyan. But again, as with any other aspects of governance, this is something that is must. But the discussion came about because nga of the grounding of our UE choppers. And that was a decision that the President had to make because of the accidents that were happening. At hindi po siya papayag na madadagdagan pa po ang mga aksidenteng mangyayari. So because of the grounding of that fleet, necessarily, we need to acquire more air assets. Kaya napag-usapan po yan. At dahil sa matagumpay na acquisition natin ng Black Hawks, at may hinihintay pa tayong additional batch based on a previous procurement, then it's something that we're also looking forward to acquiring even more para po kumbaga ma-replace na yung mga UE choppers natin na pansamantala ay naka-grounded po ngayon.
Sir, mula naman kay Alvin Baltazar of Radyo Pilipinas, CABSEC, ano po yung extent ng participation ng local government units sa vaccination program?
Ay.
Malino na po kaya ito sa mga LGU?
Yes, that's the reason why we're going around the different LGUs ng NCR, mga code teams po na binuo ng vaccination cluster. So there are 3 teams right now sa vaccination cluster, hinati-hati po yan, going around the different LGUs of National Capital Region kasi NCR po ang mauuna para makita po na kung maganda na kung planchado na po ang lahat ng gagawin na rollout ng LGU. Yes, the LGU played a very critical part in the rollout. Ang LGU po talaga, doon tayo umaasa sa mga LGU sa rollout. Kaya kailangan po yung magandang pakikipag-ugnayan at alignment at coordination ng national government pati ng LGUs. So after NCR, we will go down to the different regions na rin po at para makita rin po yung ginagawa nilang paghanda.
Mula naman po kay Girly Linaw ng German Press Agency, when do we think the Philippines will allow foreign tourists to come in? Is there a timeline for this? What are we looking out for before allowing them to return?
I would surmise na we have to go to a step-by-step process, no? Meron tayong priorities muna. Ang priority po natin ngayon, kailangan ba English? The priority now is the vaccination. So we have to focus first on that vaccination. Once we start seeing better numbers because of the vaccination and the immunization rollout, then that's when we will start talking about tourism. I think the same principle holds true in other countries as well. As far as tourism is concerned, I think what they're looking to achieve first is a successful immunization rollout. And then after that, then I think countries will now start talking about opening borders for tourists. Right now, what we're ready to accept as foreign nationals are investors. Necessarily because we need to revive the economy, no? But as far as tourism is concerned, I know it's also an economic. Meaning to say, tourism also has a positive economic effect. But as far as opening borders to tourists are concerned, it's something that we will discuss once we see a successful immunization rollout.
Last question, sir, from Inky Nakpil of FOCAP. May we check how to present health and safety protocols for productions to IATF to be assessed if they are up to standard?
Productions?
I think this is for video productions, no? Film productions or media productions.
Oh, I'm not aware of the protocols behind the. Kasi the question is who will be producing the materials? Diba? So I guess case-to-case basis maybe. I'm not sure about the answer to the question. I'm not particularly sure about the question din kasi. Okay. Yung context ng question.
Thank you, sir. Yun po ang huling katanungan. May huling mensahe po ba kayo, sir, bago tayo magtapos sa ating pong virtual presser?
Yes, as we expect the vaccination rollout to happen very soon, sabi nga namin, Valentine's gift sa ating mga kababayan because we hope to see the initial delivery come mid-February after Valentine's Day. We hope to be able to do a successful vaccination rollout, and that would really depend on the close cooperation between the national government and the local government units. As far as we can see in our visits to the different LGUs in NCR, marami po sa ating mga NCR LGUs are adequately prepared. Actually, some even more than prepared. Ang biro nga, gigil na po. So as far as preparations and for the vaccine rollout is concerned, it's something that all the LGUs in NCR are really prepared for. So the question na lang po is yung actual implementation. But even then, lahat po ng mga contingencies, lahat ng mga tinitingnan na kailangan nating gawin during the implementation phase will be something that we're already considering. No? We're obviously happy that it's coming sooner than some people even expected. But we're very confident that with a successful vaccine rollout, we can also at the same time increase the vaccine confidence. Importante rin kasi na lahat tayo ay magkaroon ng mataas na kumpiyansa dito sa bakunang ito kung gusto po talaga natin na ma-accomplish ang herd immunity na tinatawag. And kailangan natin magsama-sama, kailangan natin magtulungan. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Cabinet Secretary Karlo Nograles. Maraming salamat din po sa mga kasama natin sa Malacanang Press Corps at sa mga foreign correspondents na tumutok sa ating virtual presser. Maraming salamat sa Radio Television Malacanang, sa NIB, sa PTV, sa lahat po ng mga kasama natin sa PCOO. Maraming salamat hanggang sa susunod po na virtual presser. Muli ako si JV Arsena at dito po nagtapos ang atin pong virtual press briefing.
Kumbaga, tanggap naman ng family namin. Ganito yung nature ng work namin.
Matutulog ka na, basa ang iyong buhok at gigising ka, basa pa rin yung buhok mo. Dahil ganun po yung hirap po namin dito.
When you're there in the field, when you're there in the flight, and then you hear them clap. The moment na nag-touchdown yung aeroplano, pag nakita mo silang naluluha, pero nakasmile.
Kung ako lang ang superhero, sana lahat sila nakuha ko nung araw na magre-retrieve kami.
Ano man ang mga pagsubok, matindi man ang ating dagok, sisikat ang araw sa bagong umaga, may bagong pag-asa ang bawat isa.
As a nurse po na nag-work sa COVID facility.
Ako ay nag-positive dahil nga po hindi natin nakikita ang kalaban, sir.
Hirap sa buhay o kaya'y napilay, hindi yan hadlang para makabangon.
Ang nakakalungkot lang, sir, hindi mo makakasama yung family mo.
Kaya ako, kung ano man yung pwede kong maitulong sa kanila, kung mapapauwi para ma-reunite sila.
Masaya po kami kasi makikita na po naman ang aming pamilya.
Maganda kasi marami ka napupuntahan. Because kung marami ka napupuntahan, marami kang assignment, marami ka rin natutulungan.
Pero sa kabila ng kanilang mga pagsubok na kinakaharap, nanatili pa ring matatag, magaling at matibay ang mga Bicolano. Totoo sa kasabihan, basta't Bicolano, Oragon. Diyos mabalos.
Habang may pag-asa, di mawawala ang diwa, kandilang walang hanggang lapoy. Ito ang totoong puso ng Pinoy. Sa iyo nangingibabaw ang bayanihan, lumalaban ka para sa bayan, inuuna mo ang iyong kapwa, tumutulong ka kahit kapos ka na, isang pamilya. isang bansa, nagdadamayan, nagkakaisa, laging handa at sama-sama, di sumusuko sa anumang problema.
Ang serbisyo ay dapat matibay, malakas.
Dahil ang inisip ko, sir, serbisyo to sa bayan. Kasi kung hindi ako, sir, sino, sir, ang gagawa?
Ang dami po, pero unti-unti pong nababawasan, nasasala. So, iilan na lang po yung talagang merong dedikasyon na magtrabaho para sa bayan.
Maraming salamat po, Pangulong Duterte, sa inyong tulong sa amin.
We will get through this crisis, I assure you. As one nation, kapit po tayo, mga kababayan, magbayanihan po tayong lahat.